Gojo is a lonely student with no friends who avoids crowds to dedicate himself to sewing clothes for his dolls at home. But when the most popular girl in school discovers his sewing skills, she asks him to make her cosplay outfits and promises to reward him with her mischief. From a young age, Gojo was enamored with the Hina dolls created by his grandfather Kaoru and passionately wanted to make dolls like him. However, when he shared his interest with his childhood friend, she called him a pervert for liking feminine things, leaving him insecure about his passion. In the present, Gojo awakens from that nightmare years later, though the pain lingered, and that morning, he went downstairs to help his grandfather with breakfast. The old man asks Gojo if he has begun to broaden his horizons to prepare for the future, and Gojo, though embarrassed, assures him that he's having more action in the bedroom than Sukuna did during the Shibuya incident. However, on his way to school, Gojo is confronted with the painful truth that he's a lonely loser who can't make friends. Later, while daydreaming in class, he reflects on how his passion for dolls isolates him as he spends too much time focused on them. Suddenly, a blonde girl named Marin Kitagawa comes flying up and accidentally hits her head on his desk. His friends rush over to check on him, but she turns to Gojo and apologizes for the disturbance, while he becomes flustered that she's even talking to him. Later, Marin and her friends gossip about something that happened the day before, when some fool tried to flirt with Marin by complimenting her looks. But when he mocked her love of anime, she called him a loser. Her friends wonder if she was too harsh, but Marin stands firm, saying she can't stand people who make fun of other people's interests. Upon hearing this conversation, Gojo can't help but relate. He holds her grip tightly, thinking how lucky Marin is to have people who accept her, unlike him. After school, Gojo is left alone to clean the classroom after the other students have gone home. While he's tidying up, the door opens and Marin comes in to help him clean, which confuses him. Marin asks where everyone else went, and when she hears that they've all abandoned their duties, she becomes visibly upset. Gojo says he doesn't care, but Marin disagrees and tells him that he shouldn't let people walk all over him, but should speak up about his feelings, leaving him stunned. A few days later, Gojo hurts his fingers while sewing, still thinking about Marin's words. Just then, he realizes that his sewing machine at home is broken, so he comes up with a solution. The next day, he borrows the sewing machine from the home economics classroom and takes one of his dolls with him. Suddenly, Marin walks in, startling him so much that he almost drops his doll. He quickly rushes to her rescue and braces himself for the ridicule, but when he looks up, he sees Marin amazed that Gojo knows how to sew and asks him where he learned. He tells her his family owns a Hina doll shop. Curious, Marin asks to see the doll he's holding, and when he hands it to her, she compliments how cute it looks. Gojo is surprised, as no one has ever said anything nice about his interests before. He tells her he can only make clothes, not dolls themselves, but when Marin hears this, she starts unbuttoning her uniform, telling Gojo to turn around. He immediately obeys, confused about what kind of adult film scene is unfolding. When she's ready, she appears in a simple black dress. Gojo asks about it, and she hands him a reference image, explaining that she's trying to recreate a costume. Gojo immediately sees that everything is wrong and harshly criticizes the outfit, calling it a trash design. But when he notices Marin is crying, he gets down on his knees and apologizes for being so harsh. She assures him she's not angry and explains that the dress is her attempt at cosplay, which for her is the best way to show love for a character. It's then that Marin has an idea and asks Gojo if he can help her make costumes. Touched by her passion and remembering her words about accepting people's interests, Gojo agrees to help. Marin is excited and starts jumping for joy while Gojo watches, surprised to have found a connection with someone like her. As they continue talking, Marin reveals the character she wants to cosplay, a character from an adult game where the girls make cheerful noises. Gojo asks Marin to repeat what she just said, and she proudly confirms that she's a fan of dating sims where her stepmother is outdone. Marin explains that it's a dating sim about a guy who's more delicious than Genghis Khan himself, and while Gojo does his best to keep up, he's completely lost since he's never played any of these games. He assumes she's joking until he sees the serious expression on her face when Marin starts rambling about her favorite character, Shizuku, and how she'd love to become her. Gojo is surprised that a girl would like games like this, but Marin insists it doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl as long as you can enjoy it freely. Her words remind Gojo of the time his childhood friend insulted him for liking girly things, and without hesitation, he agrees to help. They get ready to start, and Marin pulls out a book full of instructions. He's surprised that she has a guide for her passion, but he quickly realizes how clumsy he is and that he can't follow the instructions. Then Gojo tells her that before they start, he'll need her measurements, but since it's already late, they agree to do it on Monday. However, the next day the doorbell rings, and when Gojo opens the door, he's stunned to see Marine standing there. He asks how she knew where he lives, and she casually explains that she looked up his name online and then camped out in the bushes. Gojo is clearly alarmed, but she distracts him and walks right in, acting as if she owns the place. She heads straight to his room, and when she sees his tools, she strikes a pose that makes Gojo want to bury his dark desires. She tells him they should start by taking her measurements, but Gojo turns bright red and suggests she find someone else. Explaining that the book says he needs to measure her in her underwear, Marin casually unbuttons her shirt to reveal she's wearing a swimsuit underneath, saying it's no big deal. With few options, Gojo takes a deep breath and begins measuring his head, trying to keep his hand steady to avoid any accidental contact. Marin agrees to keep her eyes closed to help him, but when she suddenly opens them, Gojo collapses to the floor. Once he recovers, he asks her to turn around so he can measure her shoulders. However, he becomes flustered at the sight of his own attributes and asks how she isn't embarrassed. Marin simply says that she's focused on becoming Shizuku, and that means following instructions to the letter. Upon hearing this, Gojo slaps himself, apologizes for letting his mind wander, and decides to take things seriously, taking all the basic measurements like a professional. Then Marin asks him to measure her feet and says that she always has trouble finding the right chair. Gojo offers her a chair, but Marin jumps onto her bed and tells him that she's the perfect height. Gojo panics, warning her that she's literally sitting on his bed, but she just shifts more comfortably and puts her foot in his lap, telling him to get this over with. Gojo manages to finish the job, but Marin asks him to measure her bust. Gojo immediately says she should do it herself, but Marin complains that it's difficult to do it accurately alone, then lifts her hair and tells him to do it. Reluctantly, Gojo leans in close enough to hear her heartbeat and starts sweating. To keep his mind off impure thoughts, he imagines horrible scenarios and manages to get the measurement. Marin then says they still need to measure her crotch. Gojo imagines what that means and flatly refuses. Marin insists it's necessary to get the correct pattern, but Gojo points out that he'd essentially be aiming for a very specific target. Marin laughs at how embarrassed he is and decides to do it herself, but when she tells him the measurements, he can't help but imagine things. So Gojo gets ready to measure near her legs, and this time tells himself not to be nervous, but just as his hand brushes against Marin, she blushes and squirms a little. Afterward, Gojo asks for visual references from the game so he can design the dress correctly. She hands him the discs and smiles excitedly. Gojo tries to concentrate, but his eyes wander, and he almost has an accident with his pants. That night, Grandpa Kaoru comes home to find Gojo glued to the game, looking for references. While Gojo is engrossed in his costume project, Kaoru is surprised to think to himself how focused Gojo is, taking notes for a girl's game. That night, Gojo dreams he's finally finished Marin's cosplay outfit and shows it to her, but then Marin transforms into her character and begs him to have sex with her. Gojo jolts awake and realizes he had a wet dream filled with regret and embarrassment. Embarrassed, he tells the doll Hina near his bed to look away so he can mind his own business. Later at school, Gojo is afraid to face Marin, knowing she starred in his dream. Just as he's overthinking it, Marin walks down the hall, and everyone turns to admire how pretty and popular she is. Gojo's thoughts drift to her in a swimsuit, and he struggles to control himself. He starts looking for somewhere to calm down, but Marin finds him and thanks him for helping her on Saturday. Gojo blushes deeply, overwhelmed by the memories, but Marin just chats with him as usual until her friends appear out of nowhere and all flirt with him. When they see his facial reaction, they wonder if they should leave him alone since he looks nervous. Marin tries to stay calm, but when she accidentally brushes against his arm with her privates, it makes Gojo react. Then his friends remember they're late for class and leave. Marin waves goodbye, and Gojo is relieved that Marin treats him normally, even at school. But then he overhears nearby students gossiping, wondering if someone like Marin would ever date an ugly clown like him. In class, Marin excitedly runs toward Gojo, but he lies, saying he's busy and quickly walks away. For the rest of the day, Marin tries to talk to him, but he continues to avoid her until the school day ends, leaving her feeling a little depressed. As Gojo tries to leave campus, Marin finally catches up with him and asks if he wants to go shopping for cosplay supplies. But when people start staring at him as if he's guilty of some crime, Gojo says he'll pass and runs off. He hides behind a fence and silently apologizes for abandoning her, only to realize Marin is right beside him. She tells him not to run, and when he asks why he's been avoiding her, Gojo says they should talk when no one's around so people don't get the wrong idea. Marin just laughs and says they're friends and it's too late to hide it. Gojo is stunned and mentions the dating rumors, but Marin doesn't care and even teases him by grabbing his hand and pulling him toward the store. They arrive at a cosplay shop, and Gojo shows her his multi-angle sketch of Shizuku's costume. Marin is impressed by how much effort he put into it, and they decide which parts to buy first. They choose the fabric for the dress, and while Marin suggests a glossy black, Gojo explains that since Shizuku is more elegant than flashy, the material needs to be thicker. When he sees the price, he admits he didn't bring any cash, but Marin tells him not to worry and pulls out an envelope full of money, encouraging him to spend what he needs. Gojo hesitates but agrees, and they continue shopping. After getting some fabric, Marin takes them to a wig shop, and Gojo is amazed by all the options. Marin points out the black wigs, but Gojo suggests dark purple ones to match the character's coloring. Marin is surprised by how much he knows and listens as he explains the wig's requirements to ensure it's long enough for the right hairstyle. Marin admits she always chooses the wrong things on her own and says she's glad he came with her. At that moment, Gojo's heart warms at the thought of being helpful to a real person. Then they go to a lingerie shop to buy accessories and stockings. Gojo freezes, terrified that he might get too excited, but Marin assures him that couples shop there all the time. She tries to chase him by showing him a garter, but Gojo begs her to stop, saying it might explode if she continues. Later, they eat something, and a nearby woman watches them enviously, wishing she were as carefree as they are. But when Gojo starts talking about the steamy scenes in Marin's game, the whole restaurant stares in horror, thinking Gojo is a freak. Then Gojo offers to take all the cosplay materials home and starts working on the pattern. He asks Marin if there's anywhere she plans plans to go in the costume, and she tells him about cosplay events where people take pictures and post them online. She shows him a girl named Sajjuna Inui, who cosplays but never attends events. She continues showing the photos and notices that Gojo isn't saying much. Jokingly, she asks him if he doesn't find real girls attractive. Gojo explains that he's an only child, and that the first time he saw a Hina doll, he was amazed that something so beautiful could exist. So, since then, he's only used words like beautiful for things that are truly special to him. Suddenly, Marin spots a food stall, buys something, and starts happily devouring it. Gojo, however, politely declines her offer to try a bite. She reminds him that he still owes her the ramen and tries to return the favor, but Marin says the food is his invitation and tells him how happy she is that someone actually played the game she recommended and paid attention to the details, which makes her feel appreciated. Upon hearing this, Gojo is touched. Suddenly, Marin offers him a bite of what she's been eating, but he refuses, realizing it would be an indirect kiss. Marin asks if Gojo thinks she's eating too much, and while he denies it, his face tells a different story. She quickly defends herself, saying the dress will still fit. Gojo asks when the cosplay event is, and Marin says the next one is in 2 weeks. Realizing she's about to miss her train, she runs off, leaving Gojo panicked and worried about how little time they have left. On the train home, Gojo can't stop thinking about how he's going to finish Marin's dress in just 2 weeks. He remembers how excited Marin was, which motivates him to start immediately, but deep down, he knows it might not be enough. When Gojo gets home, his grandfather Kaoru notices he's later than usual. Gojo apologizes, explaining he got lost while shopping with a friend, but Kaoru is happy that Gojo has friends. However, when Kaoru sees the socks Gojo picked up, he's shocked to discover his grandson is wearing them. Later at the hospital, Gojo's cousin rushes in, worried about him. Gojo assures her it's nothing serious, and just then, Kaoru is discharged. His cousin suggests he stay at her house for 2 weeks to rest. Gojo agrees, promising to bring some clothes the next day, but Kaoru is more concerned about his dolls. On the way home, Gojo feels stressed. Days later, Marin discovers why Gojo wasn't at school, and seeing how worried he seems, she tells him to let her know if he needs anything. Gojo thanks her and says he'll be fine. So Marin suggests they exchange contact information. As they walk back to class, Gojo starts to panic when he realizes he hasn't touched the outfit in 2 days. Marin reminds him that midterms are next week, and Gojo can't believe he forgot. Between school, studying, and visiting his grandfather, he wonders how he'll find the time to finish the dress. Marin asks if he's okay, and although he says he is, deep down he knows he's in serious trouble. That night, Gojo receives a call from a visitor who wants to tour Hina's doll shop, and since it's their only chance, Gojo agrees to give the tour, even if it means sacrificing more of his time. Throughout that week, Gojo struggles to balance visiting his grandfather, giving tours, and working on Marin's outfit. At school, Marin notices how distant and serious he has become, but when she tries to talk to him, he runs off before she has a chance. That night, she walks toward his house but finds it dark and quiet. Assuming he's not home, she sadly walks away. However, inside the house, it's a complete mess, and Gojo lies on the floor, utterly exhausted. He hasn't slept, and the outfit is far from finished. He remembers asking his grandfather once why he always carries his paintbrushes, and Kaoru said that spending even a single day without them would rust them. Gojo can't even remember the last time he touched his own brushes and begins to doubt himself, wondering if he truly has what it takes to be a craftsman. The unfinished dress only increases his frustration, and painful memories of being called a pervert flood back. Gojo breaks down in tears. He then remembers asking his grandfather if he ever got tired of making dolls every day, and Kaoru said that the reason he was able to get through the tough times was because of his love for them. He even showed Gojo a photo album full of happy customers to remind him why he does what he does. Thinking about how happy Marin will be with the dress gives Gojo strength. He wipes his tears, puts on the headband, and goes back to work. The day before the event, Marin is surprised that Gojo has finished the dress. Gojo tells her that she'll be able to attend the event after all, but Marin reveals that she hadn't even chosen an event yet and was waiting until he finished the outfit first. While Gojo is relieved that he hasn't ruined any plans, Marin bursts into tears, realizing how much effort Gojo has put into her without saying a word. She apologizes for not knowing what she was going through, and Gojo says it's partly his fault too for continuing to work without telling her how difficult it was. As Marin wipes away her tears, Gojo suggests she try on the dress so he can see how it looks on her. Marin hesitates, pointing out how exhausted he looks, but Gojo insists that seeing her happy is all that matters. Marin smiles through her tears and promises to wear the dress to the fullest. Gojo helps her style her hair and prepare the wig. They discuss Shizuku's makeup and plan how to recreate the look. Gojo pulls out some false eyelashes, and Marin teases him. Gojo explains that they're for Hina dolls, which require more care than people realize. Gojo enthusiastically shares how artisans can identify a doll maker just by their eyebrows and says he hopes to make dolls like his grandfather someday. Marin tells him she can, and Gojo's smile makes her heart flutter. They return to makeup, and Marin changes into her costume. When she calls Gojo again, he's stunned because she looks exactly like the version of Shizuku he once imagined. Gojo tells her she looks perfect, and Marin thanks him for making her dream a reality. Gojo asks Marin how the dress feels, and she mentions that while it fits well, she can't can't raise her arms. It's then that Gojo realizes he forgot to consider mobility. Marin then makes a curious movement and is surprised at how well she got the proportions right. She's also surprised that the skirt is the perfect length to show her love for the character. Marin is so excited that she begs Gojo to take pictures of her. He agrees and starts snapping some, but tells her they just look like Marin in costume, so he suggests she strike some poses that fit her character. Marin agrees and chooses a gray background. She tries to capture Shizuku's somber expression, but keeps smiling because she's having so much fun. When she tries again, she manages to get into character, which surprises Gojo. He compliments her and takes more pictures until she's satisfied. When she looks through the photos, she's thrilled and quickly creates an account to post them. At that moment, she decides she does want to attend the cosplay event and invites Gojo to go with her. The next day, they arrive at the event, and Marin is impressed to see all the cosplayers there and even more excited to see all the characters she's a fan of. She thanks Gojo again for helping make her debut a reality, but notices he's distracted by the crowd and asks him what's wrong. Gojo admits he feels uncomfortable being surrounded by so many girls and feels like everyone is staring at him. Marin teases him, saying they're probably just admiring his amazing costume, but Gojo thinks it's because he's poorly dressed. To cheer him up, Marin drags him to the main plaza where more cosplayers are taking pictures. There, a stranger with a camera recognizes her as Shizuku and excitedly asks for a photo. Marin is delighted with the attention and agrees. Gojo steps back to give her space, and she easily transforms into a different character, posing gracefully for the camera. She even takes a selfie with the photographer, who gets flustered being near her. More photographers start lining up to take her picture after seeing her top-notch cosplay. Gojo watches her bask in the attention as all sorts of people walk by in costumes, boys dressed as girls and girls dressed as boys. He notices how free everyone is to express their favorite characters. Looking back at Marin, he feels proud of having helped, but then realizes that now that he's kept his promise, he might not get to spend time with her like this again. He understands that if Marin hadn't been so open and enthusiastic, he never would have ended up in situations like hanging out after school or having a girl in his room for the first time. He quietly cherishes each moment like a fleeting dream. Then Marin looks up and gives him a huge smile that makes his heart leap. She runs to him excitedly and says she's glad he didn't run away, but suddenly admits that her costume is falling apart. Gojo asks what's wrong, and Marin confesses that she used extra padding to match Shizuku's figure, and now it's about to burst. She also complains that the thick fabric is making her too hot. Gojo realizes it was his mistake since he chose the heavier material. They head inside to cool off and stop at a staircase. Marin says she can't get to the changing room, and Gojo gives her a cooling patch and offers her a towel to dry her sweat. Marin unties her clothes, revealing her assets, and Gojo nervously looks away. He looks up tips online for avoiding heat stroke, and Marin asks him to unzip her dress a little to help her cool down. Gojo hesitates, but seeing how uncomfortable she is, he unzips it slightly. Marin makes noises of relief, and Gojo turns redder than a tomato. She lifts her skirt to let in a breeze and assures him she's wearing shorts underneath, and Gojo promises to make alterations to the dress later to fix the heat problem. Before leaving, Marin says she has one last thing to do. Back in the square, she finds the woman she'd spoken to earlier and apologizes for leaving. She poses for one last round of photos, and the woman thanks her. But just then, the wind lifts Marin's skirt as the flash goes off. The woman panics and promises to delete the picture, but all Marin cares about is getting one where she's looking at the camera. After the event, Marin and Gojo board the train home. Marin thanks him again for all his hard work, and Gojo thanks her for such an unforgettable day. He starts to look a little sad, thinking this might be the end of their time together, but then, to Gojo's surprise, Marin asks who her next cosplay should be. Thinking it would be a one-off, Gojo asks if Shizuku isn't enough. Marin laughs and tells him she has many favorite characters, and as she rambles on about them, Gojo starts to smile again, realizing he'll continue hanging out with her. Marin catches his expression and teases him about it. Gojo admits he's just looking forward to working with her again. Marin smiles and says she'll even buy him a mannequin to help him. She turns to show him an example, but sees he's already half asleep after all the late nights. Marin starts talking about how much fun she had, but Gojo can barely keep his eyes open. Suddenly, just before he falls asleep, Gojo glances at Marin, looking at her in her Shizuku costume, and tells her she's beautiful. Marin freezes and remembers Gojo once saying he only uses the word beautiful for things that are truly special to him. His words make her face turn bright red as she realizes what he just said, all while he sleeps peacefully beside her. Later, they return to Gojo's house, and Marin offers to wash the Aidyar wig. Gojo reads the care instructions aloud as Marin follows each step. As Marin progresses, she realizes it's easy. She turns to tell him, but freezes when she sees him and begins to see him in a different light, now as a man who could expand his domain better than anyone. Meanwhile, the cousin takes Grandpa home, joking about how Gojo could start wearing stockings. When Kaoru finally enters the house, to his surprise, the first thing he sees is Gojo greeting him while holding a dress, followed by Marin. Kaoru laughs, thinking someone painted the walls white while he was gone. Later, Kaoru apologizes for shouting, and Gojo assures him they weren't doing anything unusual. When the old man sees the dress, he congratulates Gojo on his brilliant work, and Gojo humbly admits he still has a lot to improve. As the two begin to inspect the dress more closely, Marin silently observes them. And that's when she realizes she's completely smitten with Gojo. She starts to fidget at how cute he looks while chatting with his grandfather until her stomach suddenly betrays her with a loud growl. Gojo asks if she's hungry, and Kaoru invites her to stay for dinner. That night, Marin happily devours Gojo's cooking and praises him for being an amazing cook. Gojo explains that he had to learn to cook since his parents passed away a long time ago, and Marin says she's in a similar situation. She reveals that her mother passed away and her father had to move for work, so she lives alone. Kaoru asks if she eats well, and Marin assures him that she does, but proves it by showing them a picture of unhealthy food. Gojo looks mildly traumatized as Kaoru asks if he's okay. Marin laughs and says she drinks milk and eats yogurt every day, but Kaoru insists she join them for meals more often, and she agrees. After dinner, Gojo walks her to the station and apologizes for keeping her out so late, but Marin assures him she had a great time. Blushing, Marin says a shy goodbye and runs off with a big smile. On the train home, Marin wonders why she feels so uneasy. She remembers when Gojo told his grandfather they didn't do anything inappropriate and starts to wonder what would happen if they did. The next day, a girl runs into Kaoru's shop in the rain for shelter. When Kaoru sees her soaking wet, she assumes she must be one of Gojo's friends and invites her in. Later, Gojo arrives home from school and Kaoru tells him a friend is waiting for him. Gojo is confused since he only has one friend and Marin is at work. He panics, thinking it might be a robbery, and rushes to check. When he opens the bathroom door, he finds a stranger without clothes. She slips and falls, accidentally revealing everything to him. The sight reminds Gojo of when he once asked his grandfather why his Hina dolls didn't have hair, and Kaoru explained that the heads are made separately. After calming down, Gojo apologizes to the stranger and asks what she's doing there. She wants to know if he's the one who makes the costumes, and Gojo assumes she's talking about Hina dolls. Gojo takes out a notebook and asks her name. She introduces herself as Sajjuna Inui, and Gojo is surprised to discover she's actually older than him. He says she can check out some costumes right away, which excites Sajjuna. But when Gojo takes her to the Hina doll showroom, Sajjuna is confused. After looking around a bit more, she admits the doll clothes are cute, but asks why he's showing her this. Gojo reminds her it's a Hina doll shop, but Sajjuna pulls out a picture of Marin and says she wants a cosplay outfit like that. Gojo says he doesn't take orders, but Sajjuna pulls out her secret weapon and threatens to report him for seeing her naked unless he agrees to help her. Suddenly, Gojo realizes this is the same cosplayer Marin mentioned, the one who never goes to events. Gojo asks how he found her house, and Sajjuna explains that he saw Marin's cosplay post, researched the event, and tracked Gojo down. Gojo quickly texts Marin about her guest, and she arrives moments later, going crazy over her cosplay idol. Marin bombards Sajjuna with compliments and questions, which terrifies Sajjuna. When Gojo informs Marin that Sajjuna is a fan of her cosplay, Marin is ecstatic. After calming down, Sajjuna asks Gojo to make her a costume of Shion, the magical girl from the Flower Princess Blaze series. Marin lights up and begins explaining everything about the character and the anime she's from. Sajjuna is surprised, as she didn't expect Marin to know such things and initially thought Marin was just a superficial girl. Gojo mentions that Marin loves Shion so much that she has Shion merchandise all over her bag. Sajjuna asks why Marin doesn't cosplay as her, and Marin explains that her attributes are too large to pull off Shion's innocent look, and she would never want to ruin a character she loves so much. Upon hearing this, Sajjuna realizes that Marin is the type of cosplayer she respects and quickly apologizes, tearfully, for judging her harshly. As Sajjuna prepares to leave, she asks for Gojo's contact information so she can send him more details and her measurements. Then, she casually tells Marin not to get the wrong idea and assures her that she isn't romantically interested in Gojo. Gojo immediately makes it clear that they aren't dating and runs away in embarrassment. Sajjuna apologizes for the misunderstanding and is confused when she sees how happy Marin is after hearing that Gojo is completely single. Marin snaps back to reality and asks Sajjuna if she'd like to cosplay together sometime, but Sajjuna quickly declines her offer. When Gojo returns, she finds Marin trying to get Sajjuna to do a group cosplay with her, but Sajjuna says she only likes solo cosplay and already has plans to rent a studio by herself. Marin imagines how great Sajjuna will look in a studio and begs to go, but Sajjuna keeps refusing her offers until Marin offers to split the studio fees. Gojo also offers to help, saying she has to be there anyway to assist with Marin's makeup. Hearing this, Sajjuna realizes she could save money and use the extra cash on costumes instead, so she agrees. Marin is thrilled, and Gojo says she'll watch the anime too for reference. Sajjuna asks if the visuals aren't enough, but Gojo explains that she likes to get to know the characters personally. When Gojo looks for a place to watch the show, Marin offers to lend him her DVD collection. Gojo is relieved until she tells him she has over 100 episodes. The next day, Gojo tells his grandfather he's going to Marin's house. Kaoru tells him not to worry about the shop and then looks at the Hina doll head Gojo has painted. Worried, Gojo isn't sure if it looks good, but to his surprise, Kaoru says it's clear he's improved his skills. She points out that Gojo's lines used to be stiff but are now softer. She guesses that spending time with Marin has done him good and advises him not to focus solely on dolls if he wants to. Be a true craftsman. Later, Gojo arrives at Marin's apartment and rings the doorbell several times. Suddenly, Marin bursts into the door in her her pajamas, rushing to explain that she overslept. Gojo, however, is too stunned by her appearance and doesn't hear anything else. When Marin sees the look on her face, she glances in the mirror and realizes she isn't wearing her contact lenses. She closes the door to put them in. After getting ready, she lets Gojo in and hands him a bag of food. She's so distracted by Gojo seeing her unkempt that she doesn't even notice he's still frozen in the doorway. Because Gojo has never been to a friend's house before, especially a girl's, he starts to feel nervous. He thinks about just grabbing the DVDs and leaving, but Marin suggests they watch a few episodes together. Gojo agrees, and she leads him to her room, which is filled with Shizuku's things, helping to calm his nerves. They sit and watch, and Gojo takes notes on the characters' details. Marin gets comfortable and starts talking about her favorites. Suddenly, she realizes this feels like a date night at home. It's just the two of them without Grandpa. She looks at Gojo, sees that sweet, absent-minded look she loves so much, and realizes she's completely smitten. She tries to stay calm but can't help but melt inside. Lost in her reverie, her stomach growls loudly. Gojo offers to go out and get food, but Marin says she'll cook instead. Gojo is excited to try her cooking, but when he remembers how unhealthy her food is, he worries. He offers to cook, but Marin insists on doing it this time. She quickly puts on an apron and then remembers she forgot her bra, but shrugs, hoping Gojo didn't notice, which he clearly doesn't. She checks the refrigerator and decides to make fried rice, excited to cook something homemade. She chops some onions, fries the rice, and is surprised that it tastes so good. But when she serves it, it looks a bit messy. Embarrassed, she tells Gojo not to eat it, but he tries it and says it's really good. Marin asks if he's just being polite, but Gojo insists he's telling the truth, which makes her happy. After lunch, they continue watching anime. At one point, Gojo gets so emotional that he starts to cry, so Marin gives him some tissues with a smile. Later, when Gojo gets home, he talks to Sajjuna about the outfit design. She's impressed by the level of detail and offers to send money for materials, but decides to wait until Gojo knows the exact cost. When he asks if she wants help with the makeup, Sajjuna says she'll do it herself. Curious, Gojo asks how she changes the shape of her eyes in photos. To answer his question, Sajjuna switches to video chat and demonstrates by holding her eyelids with a strip of tape. She explains how she uses it to adjust the shape of her eyes, and Gojo realizes they might have used that technique on Marin as well. Sajjuna asks if she didn't already know, and Gojo explains that it was her first cosplay project, which surprises her as she learns the dress was her first attempt. She thinks that's why the photos were taken with a phone and offers to let him use her high-quality camera next time. She mentions that her younger sister Shinju takes all her cosplay photos and suggests that Gojo and Marin buy cameras too. Gojo asks if Shinju can teach him how to use one, and Sajjuna suggests they meet at a family restaurant near her house. Gojo agrees and thanks her before ending the call. He immediately texts Marin about the meeting plans, and Marin calls him right away, insisting on coming too to learn. She starts by imagining how cute Sajjuna's little sister must be, but when they arrive at the restaurant, they see a very tall girl next to Sajjuna. Gojo is astonished by her height and can't believe someone so young has such attributes. Then Marin looks at the photos Shinju just took and can't help but compliment how amazing they look. Sajjuna chimes in, saying it's all thanks to Shinju, who not only takes their photos, but also came up with their cosplay name and created their account. Shinju explains that she just wanted the world to see how adorable her sister is, so she created the account, and to her surprise, it blew up. But when random people started messaging her, she didn't know how to respond, so she just ignored everyone. Sajjuna says she doesn't care what strangers think, but Shinju admits that having so many followers makes her genuinely happy. Marin smiles and says it's obvious how much Shinju loves her sister, and when Shinju agrees, Sajjuna blushes and tries to hide her face. Shinju then takes out her father's camera and mentions that photography is her hobby. Gojo asks her what makes it better than a smartphone, and Shinju explains that a camera gives sharper images and more control over lighting and background, seeing how passionate Shinju is about it. Marin asks if she's ever thought about cosplaying as well. Shinju freezes for a moment at Marin's question, but when Sajjuna repeats it, she replies that she just enjoys taking pictures of her sister. Later, Marin tries out the camera, and after seeing how clear the images are, she decides to buy one. Gojo looks up the prices online and almost faints when he sees how expensive they are. Sajjuna tells them it gets even more expensive with accessories, and Gojo instantly loses hope, wondering how people at cosplay events can afford these things. Marin jokes that they'll just stick with the phones until she can save up enough money. Sajjuna reminds them to be realistic and only buy what they can afford. After that, Sajjuna invites them to check out some studios and suggests meeting at the train station that weekend. When the day arrives, they end up at an abandoned hospital converted into a studio. Marin and Shinju are thrilled and rush inside, while Sajjuna, feeling scared, wonders why she agreed to this in the first place. Out front, Gojo remarks that the gloomy building fits the anime scenes perfectly, and Sajjuna agrees, but she's also a little surprised that Gojo actually watched the whole show. When Marin and Shinju call from inside, Gojo enters but notices Sajjuna frozen in the doorway. He asks if she's scared or uncomfortable, but she ignores him and enters purposefully. Upstairs, Marin wonders if it's too dark in the hallway, but Shinju says the flash will take care of that. Then she starts talking about the camera settings, and Marin enthusiastically joins in. They notice clouds gathering outside and suggest they finish up soon. When it starts to rain, Gojo finds Sajjuna huddled in a corner corner and asks if she wants to wait in the entrance, suspecting she's scared. Sajjuna insists she's fine and says she wants to continue with her cosplay. Gojo is puzzled and asks her why she's putting so much effort into it, and instead of answering, Sajjuna asks if he has any dreams. Gojo says he wants to be a Hina doll maker, and Sajjuna encourages him to pursue it. She then quietly shares that she once dreamed of becoming a magical girl. She explains that she was obsessed with the idea years ago, but eventually realized they weren't real. However, when she discovered she could buy costumes, she did, and although her first cosplay was a disaster, it still made her happy. From that moment on, she decided to pursue her dream in her own way. Gojo asks her why she chose him to do something so important, and Sajjuna admits she felt jealous after seeing photos of Marin and her creation. She adds that something about the outfit struck her, and it was like love at first sight. This reminds Gojo of the first time he saw his grandfather's dolls. Kaoru had told him they were meant to attract attention, and when Gojo asked what that meant, Kaoru explained that the dolls should make people feel love at first sight. That moment inspired Gojo to follow in his grandfather's footsteps. Back in the present, Gojo starts crying, overwhelmed by the memory and Sajjuna's words. She panics a little, but Gojo takes her hand and thanks her for the motivation, promising to do his best. However, since Sajjuna attends an all-girls school, the pressure of a boy's hand is too much for her, and she faints right there. A few days later, after the final exams, Marin suggests to Gojo that they go to the beach together. Gojo is surprised by the request, but not long after, he finds himself standing on the sand. He asks if this is for a photo shoot, but Marin says no, it's just summer, and it's time for them to have some fun. Gojo remembers how spontaneous Marin is, and thinks this is just another one of those moments. While eating his burger, Marin asks Gojo for some fries, but before he can even grab one, a bird swoops down and steals their food. They try to move somewhere else, but the bird keeps following them. Thinking quickly, Gojo throws the fries in the opposite direction to distract the bird, and they escape. Clutching the last burger like it's their treasure, they eventually sit down to rest and share Gojo's food. Marin offers him a sip of her drink, but he declines, not wanting an indirect kiss. After a while, he decides to calm down and goes to the water to soak his feet, but in doing so, he accidentally shows Gojo a little more than intended. She then asks him to join her, so he awkwardly takes off his shoes, rolls up his pants, and wades into the ocean. He's startled when his feet begin to sink into the wet sand, and Marin laughs, asking if it's his first time. Gojo admits it is, and explains that he spent a lot of time working with Hina dolls before this, and never tried anything like this. But now that he's here, he understands why his grandfather wanted him to explore the world more. He then says the scenery is beautiful, and Marin, completely charmed by his honesty, promises to take him to more places for summer vacation. When Gojo nervously agrees, Marin says she'll get something to drink and runs off. As she walks away, she gets excited when she hears Gojo agree to spend more time alone with her. At that moment, she glances back at Gojo and sees him gazing at the waves, his aura full, his expression awestruck. Touched by the sight, she snaps a photo thinking how handsome he is. But suddenly, Gojo trips and falls face first into the ocean. A few days later, Marin and Gojo go up to her room to look at some new costume materials they had just bought. Out of nowhere, Marin lifts her skirt, causing Gojo to flinch at the sight of her underwear. She casually informs him that she's wearing a swimsuit. She reminds him of the previous night when he sent her a picture of himself in one and never received a reply. But Gojo refuses to reveal why, explaining that he used those photos for his own private matters. While Marin continues showing off her swimsuit, Gojo asks for a minute to himself. Marin notices what's going on and teases him for getting angry, but Gojo snaps and tells her not to provoke him. After they calm down, Marin helps Gojo paint a jewel for his next costume and says she's happy to finally be able to be helpful, reminding Gojo of the first time someone made him feel this way. Then Marin gets excited trying on her costume and starts undressing right there. Gojo instantly covers his eyes, but Marin suddenly realizes she's wearing the wrong underwear and, embarrassed, quickly covers herself again. Later, Sajjuna tries on her own costume and is impressed with how well Gojo did. Gojo asks if anything needs adjusting, and Sajjuna suggests the skirt could be fuller. She then puts on the cape and admires the detailed lining Gojo added. She warns Gojo it's thick material, but Sajjuna says it's great for photos. Seeing all this, Marin wishes she knew more about costume design. She tries to give Gojo some professional feedback, but all she manages to do is sound like a complete novice. Gojo offers to help with Marin's makeup and wig, and Sajjuna offers some tips to make the look better match the character they're portraying. Gojo even pulls out some tape and demonstrates how to apply eyelid tape for cosplay. Marin gets excited to try it, and Sajjuna helps Gojo adjust the tape properly. When Marin looks in the mirror, she's surprised by the change and happily starts hitting Gojo, brimming with excitement for the photo shoot. But then it starts to rain outside, and Marin's spirits plummet. However, Sajjuna says the gloomy weather actually suits the character's vibe better, and she compliments Marin's outfit. Marin then speaks effusively about how much she loves both characters. She asks to take a picture together, and unlike before, this time Sajjuna agrees. Marin is thrilled and posts it on her account. Suddenly, they realize Shinju and Gojo are taking forever, but when the door finally opens, Marin and Sajjuna are stunned. It turns out that after Sajjuna fainted the day before, they ended the visit early and returned to the station. Gojo apologized for not noticing something was wrong, but Sajjuna told him it was was fine. Marin said she had plans, leaving Gojo with the sisters. Shinju mentioned she wanted to check out some shops at the station, so Sajjuna left them alone. Gojo asked Shinju if she'd ever secretly wanted to cosplay too, and that maybe she just couldn't say it in front of her sister. Shinju looked down, then Gojo apologized and started to walk away, but she stopped him and said there was a character she'd like to try. She explained that unlike her sister, who was small and cute, she was worried her larger figure would make her look strange when trying to cosplay her favorite character, and that might upset Sajjuna. Gojo shares his experience at the cosplay event, telling her that the best thing about cosplay is that anyone can become whoever they want. He encourages her to try it, promising that his sister will never judge her. Shinju thanks him and says she wants to dress up as a character from the same anime as Marin and Sajjuna. Gojo starts imagining a cute female character, but is surprised when she says it's actually a male character named Soma. He listens without judgment, and they decide that Shinju will secretly join the cosplay session. Shinju says her only problem is her large bust, which makes dressing up difficult, and that she only has a small budget. Gojo knows cosplay can be expensive, but is determined to help. They return to her house, and Gojo takes out his school uniform, which looks similar to the one from the anime. Shinju asks to try it on, so Gojo waits outside while his mind wanders. When she returns, the buttons on her shirt barely hold up her assets, and one even flies off and goes over her head. Gojo helps fix the shirt and thinks about how Hina dolls don't deal with this, but then he gets the idea to wrap her chest to flatten it and suggests trying it. While she's changing again, Gojo remembers how Marin used padding to enhance her assets and reflects on these girls' commitment to their roles. When Shinju returns, she says it's not working out as she expected. Gojo also notices that her body type is more feminine than the character's slender build. He goes online for help and finds a suggestion to use a special girdle. He looks it up and is surprised to discover the size he needs and how inexpensive it is. With the problem solved, Gojo takes his measurements, starting with the head, but her curves keep getting in the way, making the process difficult and uncomfortable for him. A few days later, Gojo and Shinju meet again to cut her wig, and Shinju is impressed by how calm Gojo is. He admits that he's actually afraid of messing everything up, and she's relieved to hear that. Gojo shares that there's someone in his class he really admires, and even though she looks perfect, she still struggles. He calls that person adorable, but quickly gets flustered and returns to the point. Shinju silently accepts this, and then they continue with the wig and makeup, slowly transforming her into the character. Back at the photo shoot, Marin and Sajjuna finally see her and can't help but admire how good she looks. Shinju is beaming with happiness as her sister praises her, and after more excitement, the girls decide to take a group photo, marking Shinju's first step into the world of cosplay. Afterward, Shinju grabs her camera and starts snapping photos of the girls non-stop, even asking them to try a popular anime pose. Sajjuna, however, is more focused on how creepy the old building feels, but that quickly changes when she sees Marin fully in character, thinking how accurate she is. The mood shifts when Marin breaks character and blushes, calling Sajjuna cute up close. Marin laughs, clearly enjoying herself, and while Sajjuna knows she's not being very professional, she can't help but get flustered. After the photo shoot, Sajjuna quietly pulls Gojo aside to thank him for helping Shinju. She's pretty sure he paid for some of her sister's cosplay expenses and promises to pay him back. She also admits she feels bad for not noticing Shinju wanted to cosplay, which makes Sajjuna feel like she failed as an older sister. Gojo gently tells her that talking about what you truly love can be difficult sometimes, and hearing this, Sajjuna realizes how kind Gojo is, but she keeps those feelings to herself. Meanwhile, Marin is in the middle of a photo shoot, posing. Shinju is thrilled after capturing the perfect shot, but right in the middle of it all, Marin's girdle gives way and loses out to her ample assets. Sajjuna and Shinju then look at the photos and are surprised at how well Marin did. Sajjuna also looks at the photos and begins to realize that her feelings might not be just about the outfit Gojo made. Shinju notices Sajjuna staring at him and asks if her cosplay looks weird. Sajjuna shakes her head and explains that she's actually jealous that Shinju was able to dress up as a character she herself could never. Shinju is surprised to hear that and assures Sajjuna that she looks great in all her cosplays, but Sajjuna explains that she only chooses characters she knows she can do justice to and sometimes wonders what it would be like to try something different. That reminds Shinju of something Gojo once said about everyone having their own struggles. So Shinju tells Sajjuna that she plans to get a job when she's older and save up to do even more cosplay. Sajjuna is thrilled to hear that from her sister and says she's looking forward to it, even admitting that she prefers doing cosplay sessions with just her little sister. Shinju says that the group cosplay was fun too, and Sajjuna glances at a photo with Gojo in the corner and says quietly that it was really fun. Back at home, Gojo is looking through the photos when Marin calls to express her delight with them. She compliments Gojo on how well his makeup turned out and asks if Shinju was wearing her uniform. When he says yes and explains that they worked on it together, Marin suddenly realizes that he was alone in his room with a girl who has a much larger chest than hers. Marin's voice suddenly falls silent as she feels a tremendous amount of jealousy. Sometime later, summer vacation begins. Gojo is excited to finally work on his dolls and Marin's next cosplay. This time, she chose a character named Veronica, a tanned villain who looks dangerous. They had watched the anime together and while Marin admired Veronica's tanned appearance, Gojo wondered how to recreate her darker skin tone. Back in the present, Gojo quickly finishes the costume since the design is simple. Just then, Marin appears at his door, looking several shades darker. When Gojo asks what happened, she explains that she put self-tanner all over her body. Then she asks to take a shower, so Gojo waits outside holding some of his clothes for her to change into afterward. When Marin comes out, she feels much better after cooling down, while Gojo is shocked to see that she's literally wearing his clothes and even smells like his soap. Then Marin shows him her cosplay makeup, which looks quite dramatic. Gojo notices something sticking out of her bag, and Marin pulls out some wallpaper to change the background. However, she still hasn't found the fake fangs for the cosplay, so Gojo gives her some fake teeth she made from press-on nails. Marin tries them on and is surprised at how realistic they look. Suddenly, Marin lifts her shirt to apply foundation to her body, and Gojo gets a front row seat to see things he was never meant to see. Marin notices his face turning red and worries he's overheating. She runs to get water, slips, and hits her head, ending their cosplay plans for the day. A few days later, Marin takes Gojo shopping with her, but instead of buying things for herself, this time she wants to buy him some new clothes. She asks him what style he likes, but he doesn't have an answer. Marin picks out a shirt and sends him to try it on. A store employee sees Marin waiting and assumes her boyfriend must be attractive, but when she sees the plain-looking Gojo come out, she hopes the boy can satisfy her in other ways. Marin gives Gojo t-shirt after t-shirt, falling in love with each one and thinking he looks attractive in them all, even though Gojo hates them. She finally picks a simple t-shirt for herself and plans to try it on too, hoping they'll match. She looks amazing in it, but Gojo still doesn't like it. Later, they buy ramen and keep shopping. In the end, Gojo doesn't buy anything, but Marin doesn't care at all. She mentions doing a Veronica cosplay now that she's healed, but Gojo says she should do it alone without him being involved. Marin is shocked to hear that and asks why, thinking Gojo doesn't want to be around her. But suddenly, Gojo says he wouldn't survive seeing her in such a revealing outfit without having an accident. Marin finally understands and punches Gojo for scaring her, since she thought something was seriously wrong. She promises to be more careful choosing her next character and says she'll wear the Veronica costume at home just so Gojo's hard work isn't wasted. They both continue walking, blushing from their earlier interaction, when Marin suddenly pulls him closer and asks if he'd like her to send him some pictures of herself in the outfit. Gojo immediately gives up, but Marin laughs and says she's just kidding. Afterward, Marin suggests they cool off somewhere since the heat is unbearable, so she and Gojo head to an internet cafe. While Marin happily talks about how convenient these places are, Gojo can't help but notice how small the room is and how close they're sitting. He asks if this is normal, and Marin casually says yes. Marin picks up a food menu, and when she sees the option, she's surprised by how unhealthy it is. Then Marin pulls out a manga about a succubus she's obsessed with. She explains that she loves characters with pigtails and would like to cosplay as this one someday. Gojo points out that this character actually wears more clothes than Veronica, but Marin surprises him by saying she probably won't cosplay her. When Gojo asks why, she admits she doesn't think she's cute enough to wear pigtails. Gojo is shocked to hear Marin say that and encourages her to try it anyway, especially since she likes the character so much. Although nervous, Marin agrees to dress up as a succubus mainly because Gojo asked her to. Gojo then asks what a succubus is, and Marin explains that they are mythical demons that visit people in their dreams and drain their energy. He gets worried after hearing that, but she assures him it's not scary. She shows him a scene from the manga where the succubus just wants the boy to fall asleep so she can go out with him, but she ends up falling asleep herself. The silly tone of the story helps calm Gojo's nerves, making him realize it's a lighthearted manga. Then Marin goes to pick up the snacks she ordered, leaving Gojo to flip through the manga, but he quickly realizes as he reads that the art is so simplified he can't make out the complete design of the outfit. And although he's made costumes from incomplete references before, he admits this one is really complicated. Afterward, Gojo says he wants to stop by the bookstore to find a better reference for the character. Later, he shows his grandfather his new purchase and feels proud of the progress he's making in both fashion and confidence. A few days later, Gojo finishes the costume, and Marin texts him to say she's booked a nearby studio for her cosplay. They meet outside, and although the place looks a bit odd, Marin rushes in without hesitation. When they arrive at the room, Marin jumps up excitedly until she notices a suspicious toy, and then Gojo realizes they're in a love hotel. Gojo asks why she didn't mention this before, and Marin shyly admits that she saw a room with a large bed online that looked exactly like one from the manga, and it was so cheap that she didn't think twice about booking it. She only realized what kind of place it was once they got there. Trying to stay calm, Gojo tells himself it's just a photo studio, but when he sees the toy, he can't help but think of all the possibilities. Marin reassures him by showing him photos of other cosplayers having harmless photo shoots in similar locations. When Gojo sees that they even serve desserts, he asks if this hotel has any. Marin tries to call room service, but Gojo stops her, pointing out that this really isn't a place for them to waste their time. Marin agrees it was a silly idea, but says she'll go change into her cosplay outfit since they're already there. Gojo waits nervously outside and turns on the TV, only to be startled by the voice of a famous actor doing his thing on screen. At first, he turns it off so he can learn some tips and tricks from the bald king himself. When Marin comes out in costume, he's surprised surprised at how good the outfit looks on her, complimenting the small details she added. Gojo explains that he researched succubi for inspiration, and while the design might not be entirely accurate, he had fun creating his own version. Marin assures him that what makes cosplay fun is adding your own personal touch, then suddenly mentions a strange superstition about how keeping certain items in your wallet is supposed to bring good luck. Gojo gets flustered, but Marin finds something in the room and jokes about sharing her luck. Then Gojo does Marin's makeup and wig, and Marin ends up eating all the chocolate. They then try to recreate the scene where the character sings a lullaby, but seeing that it looks mediocre, Gojo says it would look better from the boy's perspective, so he lies down on the bed and asks Marin to get on top of him for the photo. Marin is worried she might crush him, but Gojo says she'll be fine. As she climbs on top of him, Gojo manages to take the perfect picture. Marin is thrilled with the result, but just then they hear loud, joyful noises from the next room and remember where they really are. Embarrassed, Gojo quickly backs away, his physical reaction obvious, but they both end up tangled up and face to face in the dark. Just as they're about to move on, the phone rings, informing them that their time is up. Marin goes to change, overwhelmed by how close they came. Afterward, they go down in the elevator where a girl walks past them and reflects on how she was once in their position. Once Gojo gets home, he can't help but feel frustrated after his recent experience. The next night, Gojo's phone vibrates with an urgent message from Marin, begging for help and saying it's an emergency. At her apartment, he finds her slumped over her desk surrounded by textbooks. She reveals that as punishment, her father just canceled her plans for the summer festival after discovering she still has a mountain of homework. Marin expresses how much she wants to see the fireworks, but Gojo reminds her that she was busy with homework anyway. Marin vents, saying she took on so many modeling jobs that she completely neglected school. Gojo asks what kind of work keeps her so busy, and when Marin hands him a glossy fashion magazine, Gojo sees her face on the cover and is shocked to learn she's famous. But she laughs and says she's not famous, just an amateur model. She reveals that a salon stylist put her in touch with an editor, and now she does part-time photo shoots to save up for a high-end camera. Gojo barely recognizes her with the professional makeup, and Marin smiles, explaining that a real artist did her face that day. To relax, Marin suggests a horror movie. Gojo isn't sure, since scary movies aren't really his thing, but she insists it can't be that bad. 5 minutes into the film, she's clutching her arm, trembling, while Gojo remains unfazed, studying the details of the monster costume. When the credits roll, Gojo rewinds the film to inspect the makeup, which frightens Marin. After finishing most of her homework, Marin celebrates and feels relieved, but to her surprise, Gojo reminds her about the math exercises, and she realizes she left her worksheet at school. They go to campus, and after receiving Marin's homework, Gojo invites her to dinner. She happily claps her hands for a break from the frozen fried rice. On the way, they pass the school pool. Marin kneels down to check out the water, and while Gojo warns her to be careful, she slips and falls in anyway. Gojo realizes she can't swim, so he acts quickly and saves them, which ends with both of them soaking wet. He asks her how she manages to go on trips to the beach with friends, and Marin shrugs and says she just eats, chats, and looks at the sea instead of swimming. She wonders if it's strange to love the ocean when she can't swim, but Gojo says he understands, since it's like how she loves Hina dolls, even though she's still learning how to make them. Inspired, Marin suggests finding another festival that's still open that night. Gojo reminds her of her homework, and she promises to finish it if he helps her so they can visit the festival. As night falls, Gojo tells his grandfather he's heading to the festival, and Karu smiles, realizing his grandson has finally made friends. When they arrive, the festival is crowded, and Gojo worries he'll never find Marin, but she appears, twirling around in her beautiful summer kimono. He stares at her, mesmerized, and Marin teases him, accusing him of looking at the back of her neck. To her surprise, Gojo doesn't retort, but his reactions confirm it, and seeing him blush, Marin decides the outfit was the right choice. Before watching the fireworks, they stroll past the food stalls. Marin initially only looks for a candied apple, but ends up stopping at every stall, and they buy a lot of food. Suddenly, an announcement says the fireworks will begin soon, so they head to the plaza, and Gojo confesses to Marin that this will be his first time seeing fireworks at the festival. Then the fireworks display begins, and for the first time in his life, Gojo sees bursts of color in the sky, thinking how beautiful it is. But when he sees Marin beside him, he realizes he's witnessing an even more beautiful spectacle. Marin catches him looking at her, and suddenly sticks out the blue tongue she got from the sweets, and they both laugh. After Marin's sandals caused painful scrapes on her feet, Gojo offers to buy bandages, but she says it's easier if he carries her. He then gives her a piggyback ride, and while Marin is overjoyed, Gojo struggles to stay focused with his assets on his back. On the way home, they talk about their favorite moments from the festival, and after a peaceful end to the day, Marin promises to come back with him next year. Gojo smiles, realizing she still wants to be with him. Back at home, Gojo is getting ready for bed when his phone rings. Marin whispers that she's terrified after watching the sequel to the horror movie, and now every creak in her apartment sounds like a ghost. She begs him to keep her on the phone until she falls asleep, and Gojo agrees, lying down on his bed with the phone on speaker. Marin talks about all the adventures they had during the summer, from the beach to cosplay sessions. Her answers become softer until he falls asleep, and hearing his regular breathing, Marin smiles in the darkness. Feeling a deep connection, Marin whispers whispers to Gojo that she loves him, and as the call continues, she snuggles under his blanket and falls asleep as if she were lying next to him.